This week saw the tragic apparent suicide of yet another young former reality TV contestant. It has rightly restarted the conversation about the role reality TV has in our society and the impact it's having on those who choose to take part. As one MP said, it's time for us to step back. As a society, we have lost the meaning of fame. We grant instant celebrity status to those willing to have sex on TV, get drunk, or simply remove their clothes. Contestants become pawn in a game. Producers salivate over the dramatic moments, seeing only the increased ratings. And duty of care may often be neglected. Many young people have aspirations to achieve this so-called fame, but what happens when it ends? We need to take a look at ourselves from all angles. The media is playing a significant role in all of this and must evaluate their behaviour. So too must the TV companies capitalising on such inane activities. And us viewers need to stop fueling this. And lastly, we need to help all of our young people aspire to more than simply being famous.
Michelle, I completely agree with you. And the only thing I would add to what you just said is my concern isn't just for the contestants, but is also for the impact it has on the mental health of young people in general. Because we know the rates of eating disorders in girls, and now we've got body dysmorphia in boys as well. And I do think that these reality shows are definitely fueling the rise in the kind of neurosis and insecurity that we're seeing in many of our young people. So I completely agree.
June's right. There was a report recently that said 47% of kids between 18 and 24 had serious body issues to the point where they were unable to cope, and that filters all the way down to 5-year-old kids. But my problem with this is with these reality shows. I mean, one, Love Island is so far removed from any reality that I'm aware of. It's just not funny. But a lot of the people that they have on are ill-equipped to deal with what is going to happen to them. You know, they don't choose them because they're great personalities, because they're bright people, because they have great characters.
Mentally sound.
Yeah, they choose them for one simple reason, that they look good in beachwear and they're willing to have sex on television. And then they take these people, and I think there was a report in America that said a lot of the people who go on these reality shows have narcissistic tendencies, and what it means in life, translated in life, it means that they have no confidence really. They're very needy and they have confidence issues. So they go onto this show, then they get fired on national television, the greatest humiliation of all, and then they come off and they are abandoned by TV. But I know this because I've done reality TV. I did Big Brother. Rachel will know this as well. You have a quick psychological evaluation at the end of it. 10 minutes he said, you're fine, off you go. Well, I wasn't fine, and I don't know whether you were, but I certainly wasn't fine.
I'd like to stick up, actually, for the channel that put me on Celebrity Big Brother. I had a psych evaluation before. Admittedly, it was pretty cursory. And then I was evaluated afterwards, and I felt that they, you know, what do you say? They discharged their duty of care towards me. And I think that, you know, we have to acknowledge that people do this willingly. They go up there. More people applied to Love Island than they did to Oxbridge. And you know, let's see, should something be done? I mean, Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary, says that the onus really falls not on the people, the applicants to these numerous shows now, but to the TV companies to make sure that they are looked after. Very hard, big ask. The sudden exposure to massive fame, says Matt Hancock, Health Secretary, can have significant impacts on people. I think that it is a duty on any organisation that is putting people in the position of making them famous overnight that they should also look after them afterwards. I think that people need to take responsibility for their duties to people's well-being very seriously. You know, it's a free country. People are falling over themselves to do these shows. But what can they do afterwards? If they leave the show and they realise it's still a cold, harsh world out there, which it is.
You've been in charge of networks. What can they do?
I've been half my life in the television industry, and what is interesting is bit by bit by bit, it pushes the boundaries. It pushes the boundaries. So you remember when Big Brother first started, the idea that people were going to have sex on Big Brother was totally unacceptable. Unthinkable. you know, a decade and a bit further. You expect it.
Yeah.
And that's part of the danger, I think. But I mean, you know, that Andy Warhol, you know, 15 minutes, everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame, I think is true.
But
People
Greg,
do want 15 minutes of fame.
It's delivered by reality TV.
Isn't the other danger is people like you and I who went on Big Brother, we had another job, another life. For me, it was like a journey.
I think the celebrity shows are different to the ones with the public.
But also that we weren't dependent on fame. I did it for the money and because I was a journalist and I wanted a journalist who'd never been in there before. So it was important for me to get in, get out and start writing about it. But it wasn't my life. It wasn't about my life.
Michelle, what was your experience? I mean, you were on one of the early ones.
Yeah, so I went on, and I mean, this is years ago and times have hopefully changed, but I did The Apprentice when it was on BBC Two, so it was slightly more serious, and that was 12, 13 years ago. And I've never experienced anything like it, and I hopefully never will again when I came out of that process. And it damaged my mental health massively, and I didn't go into The Apprentice to be famous. I didn't, you know, go on it to be on red carpets and whatever, get my boobs out, whatever. I went on it because I really genuinely wanted a job with Alan Sugar, and I thought it was a wonderful experience and opportunity. I was thrown to the dogs afterwards. I was just left, and I couldn't handle it. I remember I was called the Blonde. I dyed my hair black because I didn't want people to recognise me.
Did you not have a career with Alan Sugar? Remind us.
Yeah, so I did.
Yeah.
I worked with Alan Sugar, but then I left that process. And when I left that process, there was no support for me whatsoever. And it was back in the days
Sorry, Greg, I need to bring in the BBC's right of reply. So this is what the BBC have to say in terms of how they look after contestants on reality shows. Discussion and planning around care for those taking part in our programmes is always a core part of all our production when shows involve members of the public. There are plans which go from initial casting and pre-production through to aftercare beyond transmission. We have editorial guidelines to help protect vulnerable contributors, and depending on the production, we offer support such as meetings with psychologists, mental health first aiders on set, and advice on social media use and working with the press.
Okay,
so you didn't have any of this?
Let me just bring...
I think it's evolved since I was on. I think, to be fair to them, I think they've probably learned from some of the negative experiences that people like me had. But no, I had no support whatsoever, and I didn't handle it very well at all, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
To back up what you're saying...
But you are here today because of it, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good point.
But then there's...
And you have it,
so you have
it on your Twitter bio.
You have been a success since.
It has worked for you.
I'm incredibly proud of my time on The Apprentice.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean to say that I deserved to be literally just thrown to the wolves. And it was back in the day when you had things like News of the World, where they were very ruthless in pursuing you. I used to get followed in cars by men. I had no idea who they were. It turns out that they were certain tabloid journalists. I spent a lot of my time afraid. They used to go to my 90-odd-year-old nana's house, knocking on my nana's door, following my sisters, my brothers to school.
Well,
it was
you went in with your eyes open, though.
No, that's not true. When I did it, Rachel, it was the second series. But it was on BBC Two, and it hadn't picked up. The show wasn't.
But with
like
these new shows, these young people go in with their eyes open.
Yeah, so this is what I'm saying. My experience is like 12 years old, and I really do think it's evolved.
So, I mean, do you think the BBC should have done more? What do you think they could have done?
Absolutely, I think they should have done more for that experience that we had. And because I didn't know, I wasn't prepared. I wasn't expecting to be famous because it wasn't like that in those days. I should have had proper PR support when I left the process, not just whilst I was in it. I should have been briefed on how to handle the media. I was terrified of tabloid journalists, absolutely terrified. And I don't regret going on The Apprentice. It was one of the most wonderful experiences of my life, but it could and should have ended differently.
OK, now, Love Island is obviously an ITV show. They have given us a statement which we ought to read. Our duty of care is a continuous and ongoing process for each islander. This follows 3 key stages: pre-filming, filming and aftercare. We work with both an independent GP and a psychological consultant to provide an assessment of the physical and mental health of each member of the shortlisted cast members and their suitability for inclusion in the programme. So in other words, they look at them first. We will be delivering bespoke training to all future islanders to include social media and financial management. The key focus will be for us to no longer be reliant on the islanders asking us for support, but for us to proactively check in with them on a regular basis.
Aside from just Love Island specifically, do we think the cult of celebrity has probably gone too far? And this is just one of the sort of small symptoms of a much bigger problem.
Social media has made it much worse.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's what's happened. Is that now you get trolled by everybody.
And kids believe being famous is that's the big
be all
prize.
and end all, yeah.
They don't care what they're famous for. They don't care what they have to do to get there, and that's part of the problem. It's what they have to do to get there that actually messes them up when they come outside.
We have to move on. And just to say to anybody watching, if you have been affected by any of the issues raised during this debate, you can call the Samaritans for help. The number is 116 123, or email joe@samaritans.org.